Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see already by the title and the thumbnail, today we got a spicy one for you guys. So, today's topic is going to be Eustass, Captain Kidd. And I'm going to be discussing with you guys why I believe there's a problem fundamentally with his character. And I'm going to dive in depth in what I think those problems are. So, for me, I'm going to break this down into three portions because there are three main portions that I believe that are three problems with Eustass Captain Kidd and his character in One Piece so far. So we're gonna get right into it. The first problem I have is there is no character fulfillment. Now, what do I mean by this? So Eustass Captain Kidd was introduced pre-time skip. He was introduced very early on. I believe he was introduced chapter 498 along with the Supernova. I believe the title was titled The Supernova or 11 Supernova, and we got to see all of the Supernova, all of their bounties, and I think it's safe to say that the most hype from all of them, including Luffy, was Eustass Captain Kidd. Now, Kidd had the highest bounty of the group. He had the biggest hype, and he also was the only crew aside from the Straw Hat Pirates to have two Supernova, indicating that there were parallels between the two sides, and that eventually, with Kidd's group being as evil as they are, and with us finding out that the reason he has a higher bounty than Luffy is because he was killing innocent people. Now, from what we've seen at Sabaody, it was shown to us that Eustass Captain Kidd and his crew were the exact parallel opposites of Luffy's crew, with just the fact that one was good in nature and the other was evil. This, along with the hype with Kidd and his higher bounty, indicated to us that eventually one day we would see Luffy and Kidd duke it out, and that Kidd was going to be built up as one of Luffy's main rivals going into the later portion of the story. Now, if we look at characters like Renji from Bleach, like Neji from Naruto, or Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, all of these characters started off in the same exact way as Kidd, where they were shown as equal, relatively equal to the main character, strength-wise, maybe a little bit higher, but more on the opposing end, showing us that one day they were going to have to clash. And we got to see Renji and Ichigo clash in the Soul Society arc. We got to see Neji and Naruto have one of the best fights in Naruto, in the original Naruto story, in the Chunin exams during the tournament semifinals. And we got to see the Vegeta and Goku climax during the end of the Saiyan saga. Again, one of the best fights in Dragon Ball Z. Now, after these fights that were built up for, let's say even, these fights were built up for maybe an arc. As we know, Neji and Vegeta had their fights very early on in the story. So they weren't built up for too long, maybe one arc, 20 or 30 episodes. And they still got that fulfillment before then, way down the line, becoming allies of the protagonist. We only saw Neji become a true ally in Naruto Shippuden, and we only saw Vegeta become a true ally during the Kid Buu saga, when he finally admitted that Goku was better than him and he was okay taking that back seat, even if it was just for a little bit. So it was a very big build-up to get to this point between all these characters and their story arcs. We can look back and see how exactly they got to this point. Now with Kidd, forget about one arc, forget about 20 episodes. Kidd was being built up as an opposing side to Luffy for over a decade. For all these arcs that we saw Luffy since Sabaody get stronger and stronger and stronger, because of that original hype we saw with Kidd, we only imagined he was getting stronger right there with Luffy. And we had every right to believe so, given the portrayal that Eustass Captain Kidd had, the immense portrayal that Oda laid on this man. And we never got to see the fight between Luffy and Kidd that I think a lot of us were waiting for, especially if you were a Kidd fan going into the post-time skip, which I was. I was a heavy Eustass Captain Kidd fan at the time. And I was under the belief that he was the strongest Supernova, stronger than Zoro, Law, Luffy, everyone. And to see him just skip the entire portion of fulfilling that character before he can quote-unquote become an ally was strange, because it was like he just skipped that entire step. And then we see him in Wano, and he's just an ally to Luffy pretty much. He's just aiding Luffy in his war against Kaido. And another big issue with this is Kid had more of a reason to fight Kaido than Luffy, given the fact that Kaido destroyed him and his entire crew. He first of all, he crashed into their territory, destroyed and embarrassed them, took his vice captain and gave him a smile devil fruit that pretty much messed him up for life to where he's not even normal anymore, and beat the living shit out of Kid and left him in Udon prison. So Kid had so much reason to go after Kaido, and he even said from the beginning he swears he's going to be the one to take down Kaido. And this was good. Everything we saw in Udon prison was great for the Luffy and Kid rivalry, and we got to see once again why Kid was being built up to be that guy. But when he just completely gave all that aside and decided to fight Big Mom to help out Luffy fight Kaido, from his character standpoint, it makes absolutely no sense. For a character who is as confident, as arrogant, and as self-centered as Kid, to take that back seat does not make any sense for his character. So there's a major character flaw there, and I believe that this alliance, or whatever you want to call it, Kid with Luffy and helping them out and all this, whatever you want to call it, this should have happened after a fight between Kid and Luffy. And that could have even happened in Wano. That could have happened in Udon prison, and that could have been the reason for Luffy getting stronger and for Kid getting stronger, as opposed to training. We've seen Luffy get training arcs already, throughout many arcs where he had to just stop and train for a bit. So to see a fight between those two would have been amazing, and it would have actually been of significant importance to Kid's character and him being able to accept taking a backseat to Luffy had he lost to Luffy in the past. However, it seems like we just skipped this portion. This would be the equal of Neji and Renji and Vegeta never fighting Goku and Ichigo and Naruto and just becoming their allies after countless of episodes of them being completely evil and complete assholes. Neji was an asshole at first, and had he not had that moment to fight with Naruto and to quote-unquote turn good, or whatever you want to call it, he would never have had that moment where he woke up and was able to accept who he was. And we got this with these characters, but we never got this with Kid, and this bothered me always. And I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, those very high expectations for Kid is the reason I'm disappointed with him, because my great disappointment comes from my great expectations, and to see all of those expectations that were built up from false hype just completely not matter in the raid was a huge disappointment for me. And problem number 2 is a very obvious one, and this is lackluster feats during the raid, or on the rooftop specifically, may I mention. So one thing I want to say is, after the rooftop when he fought Big Mom, no complaints there. We got to see some amazing stuff from Kid. We got to see Devil Fruit Awakening. Him and Law defeated Big Mom. It was great. However, on the rooftop, when Luffy gave Kaido the red rock, he didn't even know what type of haki Luffy was using. And Zoro knew, Law knew, everyone else knew. He wasn't even aware. We know that on his way to the roof, his plan was to gather all of the metal he could, and he thought that was going to be enough to defeat Kaido, indicating how delusional and how far behind he really was from the reality of what it was going to take to put down the monster, the absolute beast specimen of a man that Kaido was. He was not even close to ready. Luffy at least was somewhat ready and knew about Rio and Haki and knew how much it would take to take down Kaido. Even if not fully, he was far more prepared than Kid. Now, in my opinion, he was outdone. Luffy and Zoro outdid him without a shadow of a doubt. There is no arguments there. What we saw from Zoro on the roof is absolutely amazing, and Zoro and Luffy were the MVPs of that. Now, Law was fantastic for tactical and for support, and his IQ, so for me, he was above him as well. He also did more damage with the internal damages that he was doing, such as the injection shots and stuff like this. Killer with the Sonic Scythe and all of that stuff. To me, he was very impressive too, because we weren't expecting from Killer the same that we were from those captains, or from Zoro, given he's the second main character. But Kid, what did Kid really do? I mean, he was just, besides some suplexes here and there that gave damage, he never really did what we would expect from the only person there that's supposed to truly be Luffy's parallel or quote-unquote equal as he was built up from Sabaody. He was so far behind that he was lucky if he was even compared to Zoro at that point, or Law at that point. And the reason I say Killer outdid him is because Killer is his subordinate, and we expect a lot less from Killer. So Killer exceeded our expectations, while Kid was far behind what we expected from him. So this was disappointing as well, and it was just extremely disappointing to see that from Kid. And me personally, I was hoping to see more, and I think a lot of us were hoping to see more from Kid when he finally had that moment to face Kaido after all those years, for us and for him, I guess weeks or months since being utterly defeated. He had a chance to show us, and he was disappointing compared to everyone else. And the third problem for me is more so a problem starting from now, especially. It's going to be highlighted from now, and it's that Kid is no longer a serious threat to the One Piece or to the Yonko. And the reason I say this is because, again, whether you want to put the label on it or not, the fact of the matter is he has become a Straw Hat ally, one way or another. Even if they're going to go their separate paths now, as we saw in the latest chapter. However, there's no turning back from what we've already seen. And what we've already seen is that Kid is willing to take a back seat from his own personal issues with Kaido, his own personal agendas, his own pride, his own ego, take a back seat and fight Big Mom so that Luffy can fight Kaido. Which makes absolutely no sense to me from a Kid standpoint, from the character that he is. Sure, had this been a Zoro or a Law or a Sanji or even a Killer or practically any other supernova, it would make sense. But from the hot-headed, egotistical Kid and everything else we've seen from him leading into this, it does not align with his character. And now that he did this, we know that at the end of the day, he is always going to take a backseat to Luffy. Now, we also know that there were new Yonko established, and he is not one of them. Luffy is. So he is now that salty, bitter guy standing in the back that's hoping to get a spot that Luffy already has, and he wants to be seen. So he is not only, from a metaphorical standpoint, chasing Luffy, but he is literally chasing Luffy in status right now in the story, where we literally see him chasing Luffy, and where Luffy is right now, he wants to get to. And if we look at Trafalgar Law, he has his own purpose. He is not competing the same way that Kid is competing for the One Piece like everyone else. So it makes sense for him to be an ally from Luffy without degrading who he is as a character or his own pride or ego, because right now his goal is to find out the meaning of the D. And he can do that, and Luffy can find the One Piece, and they don't have to butt heads. As a matter of fact, they can work together to achieve their dreams together. And if we look at Luffy, Luffy is tackling his purpose head on. Luffy is taking 10 steps closer to getting the One Piece with every chapter. We have seen him defeat 2 Yonko, defeat one head-on 1v1. He has almost all of the road poneglyphs now. He has gathered thousands and thousands of allies, from the Dressrosa Straw Hat Alliance to the Mink Samurai, Ninja Pirate Alliance. He has the people of Zou. He has the people of Wano Kuni, such an important island to finding the One Piece, and we're finding out more and more about that as we go. We still truly don't know how important it is, but he is an ally of them who have Pluton somewhere there. He's an ally of Cobra and the people of Alabasta. He has gained all these alliances, all these territories, all this power. He has gained his own power with Gear 5, Devil Fruit Awakening, advanced forms of Haki, and I would argue he is the closest person to One Piece right now in the entire story, even closer than Blackbeard. And then we look at Kid, who's supposed to be seen as a rival to Luffy, and what does Kid have? He was just given in the latest chapter a pity poneglyph by Law, where Law pitied him and felt he deserved it, so he gave it to Kid. That's the only way Kid can get a road poneglyph. I mean, let's see some more competence from Kid. If Kid is truly gonna be a threat to the One Piece, like a Big Mom was, or a Kaido was, or like Blackbeard truly is now, or perhaps a Shanks saying that he wants the One Piece, then we're gonna need to see Kid either become a Yonko, become significantly stronger in power, because having the same bounty as Luffy is not enough when we know there's an immense power gap between the two. So he's gonna have to close down that gap. He is going to have to truly defeat a Yonko on his own, and he's gonna need to physically get closer to the One Piece with some kind of like road poneglyph or something like this. However, the way Kid is right now, I hate to say it, but we all know it. He is not a threat whatsoever to the One Piece. We can look at Blackbeard and acknowledge he is a threat. Shanks, acknowledge he is a threat. The world government are a threat in the fact that they are blocking the Luffy from getting the One Piece, and he's gonna have to overcome them. But Kid, nothing from Kid. So yeah, for me, these are the three reasons why Kid is a major disappointment. And again, this comes from great expectations. Had he not been set up to be so hyped, I would not have these expectations, and it would not be this great of a disappointment. But all that great expectation just turned into great disappointment. So that's going to be the video for today. I know I rambled on for a very long time. And if you guys agree, let me know in the comments. If you guys disagree, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you guys like these kind of videos. I can get in depth with someone else, other type of characters. Doesn't have to be bashing them or something negative. It could be something positive as well. But if you guys like these analysis videos, please let me know down below and I can do more of them. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.